Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Mental Game podcast. I'm your host, Nico Marther. And quite frankly, I don't know this episode number as we've done quite a few, but I think it's in the double digits now, Not too sure. But yeah, it's somewhere in the episode 10 or 11, I'm not too sure, or even 9, Not too sure. I hope you guys' week and day have been very good and filled with sort of positivity and happiness. My week has been actually really, really damn good. Yesterday I went over to Leicester to look around and just experience the place, and also met up with an old friend of mine. And that was just very wholesome because, I haven't met this person in absolutely ages. And I ended up meeting him in Leicester, and it's been, meeting up with an old friend is always very very wholesome. And, you connect on a deeper level. And you just, you catch up. And from that day, from yesterday essentially, I really understood the importance of social prescription and just getting in touch with people. Connecting with people, whether that's people you don't know or people you know, just connecting with them, getting to know them, talking to them. And realize when you talk with other people, your sort of stress and anxiety and all those negative attributes dissipate. And it's really interesting because I experienced that yesterday and I really enjoyed it. One of the best weekends I've had in a long time, let me tell you. Very good weekend. I hope you guys also had a very similar style weekend where, you had fun, felt productive, or just connected with a few people. In today's podcast episode, we'll be talking about something I did yesterday. And I'm very proud of myself for doing that because I would have not done that in the past. And I had to work upon this, and I'm currently working upon this skill. And this skill is, or it could be categorized in a certain quotation, and that's essentially, to be comfortable, you have to be uncomfortable. So you're probably thinking, what the hell does that mean, man? Both uncomfortable and comfortable contradict each other, don't they? Well, let's think about it a bit. And I'm going to give you a few examples because I think I explain these topics with examples in a much easier manner. So, for example, as I moved to a new city to get a new job, to essentially to move on with my career and all that, I got a new job. And obviously that sort of creates the cycle of needing to adapt into a new environment, get new friends, join clubs, societies, whatever, and just essentially adapt into the new place and new town you're currently in. And you need to realize that not everyone's initially introduced to a comfortable environment. For example, when moving schools, that's not comfortable at all. When moving jobs, that's not comfortable. When moving towns or relocating, that's not comfortable. That's essentially uncomfortable. Especially when you don't know anybody. You're in a new foreign environment with different kinds of people. And you just feel a bit out of place. Because you miss your old town, you're homesick, or you're just new to the place essentially. And it's completely normal, I realized. So, this past a month or so actually, I've been feeling quite uncomfortable, to be honest. Just the fact that I don't know anybody here, first off. Second of all, I've been finding it very hard to socialize and feel connections, to be honest, with friends or with anybody, but also a community in general. Been feeling quite the difficulty of connections and getting to know people, and that's made me quite uncomfortable. I've also been quite uncomfortable with settling into my new job, for example, because I had to, like everybody else, had to adjust the way their day-to-day activities and how they conducted them, and that was also very uncomfortable. So settling in essentially it took a very long time, and it's currently I am currently still settling in, which is taking quite some time. So this uncomfortable phase was essentially something I'd like to rephrase into a growth phase. When you're in an uncomfortable state, that's essentially a growth phase. Now, it's all about perspective. Let's think about that. It's all about perspective. If you look at the uncomfortable phase as a growth phase, think about it. You're converting uncomfortable, which is a very negative word, into a more positive word, which is growth. And growth is all about becoming a better individual, person, whatever. And uncomfortable is like, just saying the word uncomfortable makes you uncomfortable. Is that uneasy feeling in your belly, brain, or wherever, So instead of looking at it as an uncomfortable situation, whether that's moving houses, relocating to a new job, trying to find new friends, instead of looking at it as an uncomfortable situation, let's look at it as a growth phase. A growth phase where you build upon the skills to tackle those uncomfortable situations. For example, the skills, you increase your skills or improve upon the skills to socialize with new people, getting to know people in new environments, people you did not know initially or want to know. You learn how to adapt into new environments with different people and conditions. You improve upon the skill to fend for yourself in a foreign environment, go shopping, come back, create a routine, understand yourself a bit better on a deeper level and what your boundaries are, what you like and dislike, and start to build yourself upon those uncomfortable situations. Build your profile, build who you are. And I've just sort of realized that because I used to call these situations uncomfortable, and I can't get out of them. They're pestering me. To be honest, they're in my brain. They're constantly attacking me, and I feel like I can't get out of them, man. I can't get out. I can't make any friends. I can't socialize. You see the key word. I can't. Every time I felt uncomfortable, I kept saying the word I can't. I can't do that. That's too uncomfortable. But when I transitioned the word uncomfortable into growth, it was like, I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to put myself out there. I'm learning to do that. And you see, these, are they verbs? I'm sorry, my English, I don't know if they're verbs now. But these verbs I'm learning, they are super powerful. Because if you keep saying I can't, your brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and fake. So if you keep saying I can't, I won't, I'm not able to, your brain will actually believe that. And your brain will wire itself to think that you're not capable, that what you want to do is not capable. But instead, when you use that other growth verbs, I'm learning, I'm developing, I'm going to do, I said that 3 times, didn't I? What other verbs are there? Yeah, I'm learning and all that. I've said quite a bit, but I hope you guys get the gist of how an uncomfortable situation is actually a blessing. Because it encourages you to develop as a person. It encourages you to get out of your comfort zone and do what you really need to do. to develop yourself and do and get the stuff or your goals completed in a particular manner. So it's so I'm it's a power of sort of looking, and I mentioned this in a past episode, it's the power of looking at looking at a positive in a negative. And that's clear, and it's clear today when you're in an uncomfortable situation, because it can be used as a growth phase. It can be used to improve yourself as a person. It can be used to develop new skills. It can be used to push yourself outside of your boundaries and become a stronger individual. So, quite honestly, I'm working upon this skill. I'm working upon the skill to just put myself, rephrase that uncomfortable situations into growth phases. I'm trying to really rephrase it and say, right, I can do it. I'm currently growing, I'm currently learning, I'm currently seeking or developing my skill to do this particular activity or task. For example, with friends, with socialization, I realized that, that was my uncomfortable situation when I first came to this new town. It was just getting to know people, which was quite hard. Getting to know the different kinds of people and getting new friends. That was really uncomfortable for me. But then, after a few weeks, it's been a month actually. After a month, I rephrased it and said, right, I'm going to stop saying I can't. It's uncomfortable. I've been pushing it on the side because it is uncomfortable. And I decided to say, right, this is a growth phase. And it's completely normal to go through this growth phase because, after all, you're in a foreign environment. You're new to the town. You're new to the place, essentially. And it's completely normal. When I accepted that, and this comes back to my episode 2, self-acceptance. When you accept that, you sort of just transition the word into growth. You see, it's actually beautiful, It's beautiful because it's really helped look at situations in a more positive lens, Because I could be looking at situations in a very negative lens and say, uncomfortable, pushing it aside. And then I could go by life doing the stuff I like, being comfortable, and keeping the stuff I actually want to do, but not doing them because they're uncomfortable, if you know what I mean. And people, I've been sometimes going through situations like that. So, to be comfortable, you need to be uncomfortable, because uncomfortable is, or can be categorized as, a growth phase. That's the beauty of it, to be honest. That's a very big beauty of a uncomfortable situation, or uncomfortable situations. So, what I'm going to start doing is putting out homework for myself. Putting out weekly homework for myself, which you guys could also take up. So what is this homework? Let's see. I want to pick one uncomfortable situation I'm currently struggling at, or I'm pushing aside because I keep reciting those negative verbs. I want to pick one of them. And I'll tell you which one it is and which one it's going to be. It's going to be going to a boxing class, which is in a different area and place. And that's one of my goals for this week, is actually go to that boxing class. Challenge myself to go there. And even though if it's uncomfortable and it is with different people and all that, still go. And that's my challenge for this week. And for you guys, I hope you guys also select one situation where you're uncomfortable at. And instead of looking at it as a negative lens, look at it as a growth phase. And say, I'm going to challenge myself to do that. I'm going to learn how to do that, for example. Or I'm going to do that. Encourage yourself. And yeah, that's homework for this week, essentially. I feel like this podcast was a bit more raw, to be honest. A bit more raw because it sort of hit hard yesterday, because I realized that some situations I've felt too comfortable, if you know what I mean, and I've been pushing stuff aside because they were uncomfortable. I didn't want to do them, but I realized it's so important to just tackle those stuff which are uncomfortable, because they really make you happier when you overcome them, when you go through this uncomfortable phase and then come comfortable with who you are, with what you accomplished and the goals you've completed. It's absolutely beautiful, man. It's beautiful. Anyways, guys, that's the end of today's episode. That's the end. And yeah, I'm really happy with how you guys just tuning in. I've been getting a good amount of support. I'm really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. See you guys next week, and please in the comments let me know what you guys would like to hear or learn about. I'm thinking about doing a few whiteboard lessons as well, whiteboard lessons which sort of diagram my thoughts, diagram my opinions, and just sort of illustrate them, because I realize that sometimes people's attention spans aren't that long, let's be honest, but I realize that with TikTok and social media. So I want to do these whiteboard lessons where I diagram my thoughts and all that. So let me know if you guys would like that. I'm going to try that maybe next week or so. So have a great week, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.